Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Historic Best of 1 with a list I actually found online, on Twitter specifically, by a user called Hysterical Function. They use this list to get to number 1 in Mythic, and it's a list we've played in the past before, so I was kind of interested in doing a little bit of a revisit. It doesn't actually use too many cards from Kaldheim, but I feel like we're past the point of being in a position to force Kaldheim cards all the time. It does use one, but it's not exactly the most highest impact. It didn't really fill a gap that the deck needed before. Today we're going to be playing Mono White Prison. So this is built around a 2-card combo primarily, which is all the way in this 3-drop slot. It's Solemnity, 9 lives. 9 lives being a 3-mana enchantment with hexproof, so our opponent cannot target it. It says if a source you control would deal damage to you, if a source would deal damage to you, prevent that damage and put an incarnation counter on 9 lives. If there are 9 counters on 9 lives, you exile it, and when it leaves, you lose. So essentially, this gives you 9 extra hits of damage, unless you've got Solemnity in play, which is a 3-mana enchantment that essentially, as far as you need to know, says that virtually everything can't get counters, including enchantments, which means 9 lives cannot get incarnation counters, which means it prevents damage, tries to put an incarnation counter on it, and can't, which means it never hits that 9, which makes it get exiled and loses the game. What this means is we are incapable of taking any kind of damage. We can lose in other means, alternative win cons, for example. We do lose to Mill, and, you know, Ugin the Spirit Dragon is a big problem, as well as cards like Stomp and Questing Beast, and I guess Insult Injury, but I hadn't seen it once in my entire life on Arena, so, you know, except for decks we've played it, I suppose, back in beta days. But since then, never seen it. But yes, anything that says damage can't be prevented, we'll get around this. We have ways of stopping that from being the case, though. The one thing that is different from the list I used to run is they're running 4 copies of Idyllic Shooter. I personally never found the reason to run this many, but this deck does have a lot of silver bullet cards that we will go through that allow us to essentially lock out the game. So this is a hard lot for most matchups. We should win on turn 4 if we draw these 2 cards together. Things like Goblins can beat us in 3 turns, but if they can't, we can drop this combo and win. We have options for that, though. We've got Authority of the Consuls, which makes our opponent's creatures enter tapped. So if they play a Muxus, it enters tapped, and so does everything that it hits, allowing us to buy some time to maybe hold up in the Settler Wreckage, or a Doomscar from Kaldheim, the only inclusion from Kaldheim here. Destroy all creatures. You can foretell it on 2, and then you can pay 3 mana to destroy all creatures. Honestly, when we were playing with Wrath, there was a few occasions when Wrath of God was just slightly too slow, so maybe Doomscar is actually a little bit of an edge that we are seeking out here. Those are going to be our board wipes anyway. The way we're actually going to win is via Approach of the Second Sun, a 7-mana sorcery that said if it would be cast from your hand and you've cast a spell named it before, you win the game. Otherwise, you put it 7 cards from the top of your deck and gain 7 life. The 7 life should be irrelevant because we're not going to be casting this card until after. Interesting. I haven't got my OBS up right now, but I believe that means someone's followed. So thank you for following in the middle of my deck tech. Anyway, yeah, we won't need the life because presumably we'll have set this combo up before then, and it's just a matter of time until we draw those 7 cards and win the game. That's pretty cool. Anyway, as I was mentioning, Idyllic Shooter has lots of silver bullet options. Authority of the Consuls is definitely one of them, gaining us 1 life as we go off of our creatures. It allows us to buy enough time to maybe get to a turn 5 Doomscar if we're unlucky enough to just draw this at the wrong time. It also stops us from getting comboed out by like the Neostorm lists and things like that. We have Rest in Peace. This actually attacks the Aristocrat style of decks as well. Similar to Authority of the Consuls, actually. It removes all cards from all graveyards. And then if a token or a card would be put into the graveyard, it gets exiled instead, which means death triggers do not apply, which means things like Blood Artist, the Cauldron Familiar, all of those things no longer work. And once Croxer enters the field, which is another card that can really get around our combo, once he enters the field, he goes straight into the exile zone and doesn't die. So death triggers, irrelevant. We can name things with Gideon's Intervention, a 4-mana basically lockout effect. Our opponents can't cast spells that we choose, and we prevent all damage that would be dealt to us by permanents of that source. So this is probably going to hit Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Same thing as Sorcerer's Spyglass, but we can't actually name... we can't tutor this up with Idyllic Tutor, unfortunately. That would be the primary source of Sorcerer's Spyglass, I imagine. But yeah, this is going to name Ugin the Spirit Dragon. It's going to name things like Ulamog. Anything that could wipe our board, Gideon's Intervention is going to want to name. Ixalan's Binding can get rid of cards we don't like, so if our opponent plays Questing Beast on turn 4, we can bind the beast, and then we don't have to worry about it anymore. If our opponent has Stomp, then that's the next thing we have to worry about at that point, but hopefully we can solve that problem somehow. Other than that, got Immortal Sun. We can also shut down Ugins with this. It's very nice to hit them with that because it will start us drawing extra cards as well, which is very nice. Against the mono artifact list, we're going to shut down Karn as well with the Immortal Sun and the other Ugin, which, as I'll find out today, is actually a problem. But yeah, it's also nice. Again, can't be tutored up with Idyllic Tutor, so it's a bit of a weird one, but it is what it is. Other than that, though, mana base, 19 planes, 4 secluded steps so we can dig through to find our approach or the combo pieces that we need with a cycling of 1. And then we've got some Arch of Araskas as well. Again, we can pay 5, tap this, draw a card, only if we've got 10 or more permanents in play by the time this enters the field. 3 Arch of Araskas actually turned out to be quite expensive for me wildcard-wise, but you know what? This is a #1 Mythic deck. It's a deck we've played in the past, and it seems like it's fine-tuned. So we'll see. If you do enjoy the content, though, I would really appreciate it if you do hit that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's get to the gameplay. This video is brought to you by the generous support of our wonderful patrons and channel members that you see here. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to cool content like sneak peeks, bonus videos, polls on future content, or access to a personal deck critique from myself every month, then hit the join button down below, or check out the Patreon link in the description. With all that said, let's get into the gameplay. Okay, we go first against the Kahira deck. I would say it's unlikely that it's the mirror, but I suppose I also wouldn't rule it out, to be honest. Kahira could also be very unlikely, but could be any of these tribal lists. Usually isn't. I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably a control list. I think typically it's like Bant control. I don't know how we fare with this one, to be completely honest. So far planes. Still planes. And they foretell. It might be the... It honestly might be the mirror. If it's the mirror, what do we want to be digging for? We do have to reveal. So I could also see foretelling here being an option. Because I don't think it's a good idea, really, to search out the combo if it's the mirror. It's also not necessarily a good idea to search blindly, either. With a spare Idyllic Shooter, though, I could go that way. So we got Authority, Leyline of Sanctity, Rest in Peace. So I could establish my combo. That's an option. I could also name things. If it was the mirror, if I named Approach of the Second Sun, our opponent can't win. I'm going to take an intervention. They're not going to take it from my hand, so I can always cast it later. I just don't see a good reason to grab Solemnity right now. So opponent wants to just pressure with Kahira. It's got to be the mirror. And we drew the combo anyway. So should I just play the combo? They won't be running any of the cards that delete these off the face of the earth, so let's just make their Kahira plan obsolete. I am closing in on the Gideon intervention naming. It is the mirror. Naming Approach of the Second Sun. They could do the same to me. So I honestly have no idea how we win. Do we just not draw more cards than our opponent? The Amiria's Call might be the thing. Well, I'm likely to not need this Doomscar for anything more than that. So we're both 9 lives Solemnity locked. There's literally no reason for me to up the Kahira in my hand, but there's no reason to do anything else as far as I'm concerned. So that, to me, is an indication that they just lost. Because if their deck is exactly the same as mine, Approach of the Second Sun is the only card they can cast, and they're now drawing extra cards. So I'm just going to name Approach. You can't use that win con. And I'll go Idyllic Shooter. I'll get the other intervention. And I'll try and name something else that they might use as an alternative win con. But I don't know what it is. What is White Prison's way of winning the game that is not damage based and not approach based? It's honestly hard to say, and I think it's a good idea to go for a Spyglass just to see what's in there. So yeah, it's just 9 lives and lands, so this is a synchronous effect. Anything I name in my opponent's deck I'm not going to be able to do myself, so I don't really want to name Arch, because I'm most likely to be using it first. Naming Emiria doesn't do anything. I could just name Mind Stone, but I kind of don't mind them redrawing. I just don't think it really matters. Should we name Khan the Great Creator? I don't have it in my deck, but maybe they do as an alternative way of winning the game. Let's go for that. And then I'll drop down my Kahira because I can. We'll get our opponent to use their Doomscar. How's that sound? Yeah, this is literally a game of decking ourselves, and I think our opponent playing the Immortal Sun has kind of indicated that they don't know that. It's a Mind Stone, yeah. Again, they could have something I don't know. Could they run Ulamog in their deck? I could foresee that being the case. I could name an Ulamog. Feels like a card I maybe should go to answer. And I should probably do it sooner rather than later as well, because if our opponent names Intervention, they've basically made me discard a card. So let's name Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger as well. Now they can't exile my permanents and my hand, and then we'll just pass. So they're at 38 to my 43. Strap in, boys and girls. This one's going to take some time, I think. I can still cast Approach of the Second Sun, but it only takes our opponent answering it to get it out of the way. Alright, so they're going to Ixalan's Binding, Approach of the Second Sun. Alright. So we need to find an answer to that Ixalan's Binding. And they're going to name Ixalan's Binding, aren't they? Oh no. Maybe I should have named Ixalan's Binding. They're going to name Approach of the Second Sun. That's okay, I cannot possibly win with it. Secluded Step. Amiria's Call is just a land drop. Another Solemnity. Yeah, I'm just going to play this tapped and pass the turn. They now have Arch online. Yeah, I think it's literally going to come down to finding Ixalan's Binding, and we just found it. So now we name Ixalan's Binding. Steal their Binding, get our approach back, and then... we want to name Approach of the Second Son again. So we got Ulamog and Approach. They can't Binding our Binding, which means they are officially locked. And now they realize it. Alright, so they did know something I didn't, which is that Ixalan's Binding was still an out. That was a bit of an oops by me. A little bit more deck knowledge, and I'm sure I would know that. I do play a fair bit of Prison, but it's been a while. So that was a line that just kind of bypassed me there, and I think our opponent plays a lot more. Therefore, they're probably a lot more aware of it. But yeah, that'll do it. No win cons for them. They can't cast Approach, and this Immortal Sun has decked them. They were 4 cards ahead, and, you know, this combo doesn't stop you from losing to drawing too many cards. So their downfall was actually their own cards. They should not have played it Immortal Sun at all. Pretty good. All right, next game. All right, we're on the draw. We have a turn 3 Intervention or Binding. I think normally you're supposed to mull this hand, because it's not very good against aggro decks. But you know, I have this feeling deep down in my gut that we're not up against an aggro matchup. And if that's the case, this could be pretty reasonable. Alright, so it could be... It's not going to be Auras. Auras usually comes with Lurrus attached. Maybe Mono White Life Gain then. Mono White Artifacts? I guess that would be the case. So, who do you name with Gideon's Intervention? Ugin's definitely up there, because Ugin can end a run. We can Ixalan's Binding the Karn. Or name what Karn hits as well. There's also that option. Gonna go for the Mystic Forge. So if I named Mystic Forge, I cut off a little bit of their combo potential, but I do allow them to minus Karn again and get something different. That's the main issue, I would say. Why are you not highlighted? 1, 2, 3... Oh, Karn's shutting me off, of course, yeah. Well, if that's the case, we're just going to use this Idyllic Tutor then. I don't think we're in any rush to go 9 lives combo. A Rest in Peace, I don't think holds much value. Solemnity. Quite possibly is the most powerful card here. Yeah, I think I'm going to take that one. There's certain lands that can get counters. Cascading Cataracts, going to get a Forsaken Monument. So yeah, this is where things get a little bit spooky, because they have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, potentially enough mana next turn to play Ugin the Spirit Dragon. So I'm inclined to go ahead and name him. I would prefer a Sorcerer Spyglass in this position though. But I think I have to go Intervention on Ugin. And then maybe... Gotta be afraid of Ulamog as well. It's a bit late for Ulamog most of the time, but maybe the other Intervention can go on that one. So let's go Ugin the Spirit Dragon. He can minus, he can mess with our Solemnity 9 lives combo. He can also just win on the spot. So let's just make him uncastable. Hedron Archive for our opponent. I think the other Intervention has to name Ulamog. Okay, lost the Guardian Idols. Opponent's doing some major work there. Thank God we got a Bob Ross land. Alright, so is it Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger now? I think the main problem is that Khan can minus and grab the blow up all permanence thing, which would be... I guess it would be slightly more destructive to our opponent. So maybe I don't have to worry about that so much. Yeah, I mean, if I don't go for Ulamog and they have it, they can just, like, blow up all my stuff. So I think I just have to Ulamog and play Authority of the Consuls as well. Let's try and take out all their possible win cons here. Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger and Authority of the Consuls. Then we can bind Khan next turn if they don't just -2. And then they can't cast Khan either. It's going to make their Mystic Forge a lot worse as well, because there'll be so many things on top of their deck that they just cannot cast. And then eventually the Guardian Idols will get locked out with the Solemnity combo. Crawling Barons and Foretells a card. That's got to be a Doomscar, I would think. Yep, they tick up. We make our land drop, and we go straight for the Ixalan's Binding here on the Khan. I guess they could have a Undo Inversion in their hand as well, which destroys all non-land permanents. It's entirely possible that's a card. So do we set up the Solemnity combo if we don't have to? I'm not sure we have to care just yet, so let's go Idyllic Shooter. Is there anything they could do that makes me have to care about Leyline of Sanctity? I don't think there is. I think we just go for 9 life Solemnity here. Yeah, I have to set it up so that I don't just die to Guardian Idols. Oh, you know what? Aetherflux Reservoir. If it's in their main deck, that could be a problem. But 9 lives kind of shuts that down as well, because it's only 1 instance of combat damage. So we're just taking 12 here, and then we'll set up our combo. A little bit more than 12. But that's okay. Yep, we're at 4. So very close. They have actually, oh no, they haven't, Mystic Forge to Khan. It's underneath my binding. Alright, so, 9 lives. Solemnity. We are immune to combat damage. And to Aetherflux Reservoir. So now for us it's a case of digging towards Approach of the Second Sun. Destroy all non-land permanents is still very much a real thing, but there's not anything we can do about that. There's just simply not a card that deals with that. Let's go, Los. Alright. Did they, they didn't search out a land, did they? Am I confused? I feel confused. I feel very confused, chat. Alright, so from here, we can draw a card with Archvaraska. I kind of like that idea, actually. We'll make sure to tap. I feel like we should make sure to tap the Mind Stone, because we might not be able to use it when they drop down a Khan, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Just do whatever. Yeah, I'll just dump down another Mind Stone. So we're immune to Ugin, we're immune to Ulamog. They cannot cast Khan. Those are 3 very, very large win conditions that we no longer have to be aware of. Wrath of God? They're clearly digging for something, which makes me worried. Ooh, they've got Ugin the Ineffable. So that can minus on the Solemnity. Or on any of the, any of the interventions. I think that was just Ugin's. And then Ugin minus. Alright. You know what? Ugin the Spirit Dragon is our worst nightmare. And this is why. Fair enough. I think we put up a good fight. But just not quite. I think if we'd have found a Sorcerer's Spyglass, we would have very likely have spotted Ugin the Ineffable. And he would have gotten named extremely quickly. Yeah, I've not really seen too many lists running this one, but I guess there's no reason not to. It's basically play this on 6, play this on 7. Yeah, well, we gave it a good shout, but, you know, this nonsense is kind of our worst nightmare. So, no surprises that we lost here. They also dug like crazy as well, so maybe getting the Mystic Forge early would have been better if we'd have bound that instead of Karn. I don't know. Maybe Karn has a Mystic Forge in the sideboard again to grab, though. So, or anything else that could just absolutely wreck us. I'm not sure. I think we played that about as well as we could with the cards that we were dealt. Yeah, just not good enough, though. Next game. Okay, we're in, and Lightning Bolt Sleeves usually just indicates that our opponents are playing an aggro deck, and this is about as nut-drawy as it can get against an aggro list, so we're going to keep this one. I don't think there's any reason to throw it away anyway. So we've got a turn 1 Authority of the Consuls, which shuts down Goblins quite nicely, makes them all come into play tapped, so we get a turn to react to Muxus. Mono Red obviously dumps creatures into play, gains us life as it does that, so like that Llanowar Elves has been fogged for a turn, which is exactly what we need. We have a turn 3 Doomscar if we want it, but we don't. We just want to dump down 9 life Solemnity here. The order of which we'll have to see. Oh, it's Elvish Archdruid. Alright. So our opponent's main problem here is that their deck doesn't do anything unless they can undo the damage prevention of 9 lives. So, I mean, I can take some damage here. I'm just going to go Solemnity for now. If they're just planning on going with, like, Forerunner or Crater Hoof kind of strategies, with Elvish Archdruid ramping the crap out of it, then they're in for a bit of trouble. If they have Ulamog as their ramps, then we're in a bit of trouble. Bit of Coco action here. So, they probably still have, like, Crater Hoofing shenanigans, I would guess. Ooh, give me all that. This thing does, yeah, it's just doing all it can right now anyway. So do we just Doomscar, or do we lock them out? That's the real question. I think we just Doomscar them. Yeah, I mean, this should shut them down easily enough. So the Lightning Bolt Sleeves here, clearly a bait. Not very good bait, because I was assuming they were an aggro deck, and that's kind of exactly what the case is here. There's an Idyllic Tutor, so we can go name things if we really want to. I'm just going to dump down 9 lives. Our opponent might just scoop straight to that if they know they can't beat it. If they play it out, though, then we can start to figure out why they're playing it out. So far, it's the realization that they don't understand the combo. Alright, now they understand the combo, and they scoop. Alright, it just takes understanding why your opponent isn't scooping, and as soon as you know that, then the path to victory opens up to you, and, you know, the path of victory here is that our opponent was unaware that they'd already lost, so, yeah. But if they kept playing it out, then we start to brainstorm ideas, you know? We go for the Idyllic Tutor, we get Gideon's Intervention, and we start to think of the cards that they could have in their deck that make any kind of sense that get around this combo. One of those could be something like Questing Beast, for example. It's not very good with Collected Company, but I don't believe that there are any 3-drop or less creatures that really care about this. It could be Reclamation Sage to get rid of Solemnity. That would also work. So we could name Reclamation Sage. There's options. There's certainly options. But yeah, it just seems like they didn't have any of them. So pretty good. Easy win. Alright, opponent goes first, making us on the draw. We have Leyline of Sanctity on our opener. Questionable as to whether that's good, but, you know, better to have it and not need it, maybe. I don't know. That may not be the case. We basically mulled to 6, so I'm just going to hope this Leyline is useful here, and we'll go from there. It does stop us dying to Aetherflux Reservoirs, and also not whatever this deck is, I can tell you that for sure. Alright. Normally I would maybe save the Secluded Step as a cycle. I'm a little afraid we're not going to get there. I think it's Mono Blue Tempo. Yeah. So this is going to get pretty annoying pretty fast. To the surprise of no one, Mono Blue Tempo is annoying. Idyllic Tutor. Yep, that's not useful at all. Alright. I'm going to go Doomscar Foretell, pass. Probably just plan on straight up using it, because our opponent will counterspell literally everything we play from here on out. And Leyline of Sanctity, as it turns out, not a good card. I'm going to put this on the bad matchup category. So far, it does feel like I've done that for just about everything we've come up against today. I don't know whether that's bad luck, or if the Mythic meta is just different to the Platinum meta. That's obviously something that can potentially be the case. I'm thinking, am I going to counter a spell or play a thing? The answer is pretty obvious. It's not even worth waiting on, because the answer is always, I'm going to pass the turn. So, we're going to go Doomscar. It's going to get countered. So our opponent knew this was coming. They knew they were going to have to play something that needed to be countered. There you go. We actually lost because we were on the play. Slitherblade with a Curious Obsession means that they just never don't have counter magic to hold up against me. We're too slow and dirtly to beat this matchup. They'd need to have absolute garbage in this hand, and that's just RNG. Favouring one person or the other at that point. I think the aggression on them to get extra cards before we can answer it. It's going to be a big indicator there. Stuari's Ruins. So now do we go with the 9 lives? Or the Intervention? Another Leyline. Now that is a bad draw. I think we're going to go with the 9 lives. Opponent can have Spell Pierce, I'm sure they do. Don't think they'd tap out like that otherwise. They'd want to Spell Pierce a Wrath of God here. Yep, I mean that's a much worse Spell Pierce. We can name Slitherblade with Gideon's Intervention, but that gets countered. Seeing a theme here? It's so fun playing against Mono Blue Tempo. So fun. I'd like to say at least we're dead next turn, but we're not. We're just not. I'd love to be, honestly. I'd much prefer that over playing an extra turn. Yeah. Hmm. 7 cards. What are the odds one of them's a counterspell? Miscloaked Herald, yep. Alright. Gonna name Slitherblade, except we're not. And people say Tybalt's Trickery is a miserable experience. Tybalt's Trickery, I was dead 4 turns ago. This one was just... it was just painful till the very end. From start to finish. Yeah, there it is. Oh boy. Yeah, I'll take Trickery over this. 100%. Maybe I'm on my own there. I just somehow don't think I am. Alright, we're on the play. On the play with Authority is very nice. We've got half our combo and a Gideon's Intervention to name nasty things. I like this hand. It's not crazy good, but it's good. We'll see. I mean, if Authority's bad, this hand ends up being bad. So, who knows, really. It's good against Goblins, though, as long as we can find an answer to the board state. Secluded Steps cycle's nice. I guess maybe I should cycle now in case I find another Authority. It's just mana efficient. It's basically the only thing that I can play with 1 mana, though. I think the downside to this play is if I hit something good in our opponent's Thoughtseize deck. But being Plains, not being Lurrus, I'm going to imagine none of that to speak of. Luminarch Aspirant, okay. So, Solemnity looks pretty good. Can we get Solemnity? This is going to be one of those, I think, good matchups for us, as long as we can find our combo pieces. Selfless Savior, gain some life. Red-white. I wonder if it's a Winota list. I suppose it's entirely possible. It's just a shame Gideon's Intervention doesn't let us look at the hand the same way that Sorcerer's Spyglass would. I don't think it's worth going for 9 lives. Unnecessarily taking hits here doesn't seem reasonable. We've only got 1 creature in play as well, so Winota's not going to do anything crazy if it is a Winota list. I genuinely don't know what it is, but it might be the best time to play Winota, because, you know, any spin of Winota's wheel is annoying. But if it's wrong, then this is a waste. Could even be just name Luminarch Aspirant to buy yourself some time. I just don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and... Or is Winota banned in Historic? She's banned in Historic, isn't she? She's legal in Standard. Yeah. I think I've just dodged a bullet. I'm gonna name Luminarch Aspirant. Buy herself some time. Yeah, she's banned in Historic, I believe. It's been so long since I've seen her in anything, so it's hard to say. Just watch Winota come down now. I wouldn't even be mad. I would have some slight tears of joy, I think. Luminous Broodmoth. Oh dear. That chat would normally, I think, be a problem. But I think Rest in Peace shuts that down completely. Broodmoth is probably a counters-based combo. Ooh, we have Idyllic Tutor. So we can do Idyllic Tutor, grab Solemnity, and then play Rest in Peace. Should have them locked out at that point. So we're going to grab our missing combo piece. We're going to make sure Luminous Broodmoth can't do any flying counter combo shenanigans off of our Solemnity. Goodbye, graveyards. So we have actually played a combo with this in the past, which is why I kind of know what I'm looking at here. I think it's a bit of a red flag for me anyway. Showdown of the Scalds, okay. This does not look like the kind of deck that can beat Solemnity 9 lives. So yeah, whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return it to the battlefield with a flying counter on it. If we played Solemnity, it would return without that counter, which means every single one of their creatures would be immortal. which could be okay on its own. If you play something like Croxer, though, it means that it enters and dies when it escapes over and over and over again. And then we lose to that. So if they're Mardu, then that would make a lot of sense here. Leyline of Sanctity. Alright, so Solemnity down. And then 9 lives down. Combo established. If they don't scoop, we know something is up. They delayed on that a little while. They could have Banishing Light for Solemnity, maybe. Oh, yeah, we're also shutting down Sagas as well, right? This does enchantments. Yeah. Alright, so Showdown doesn't do anything. Gain 1 life. What are our lose conditions? Our opponent has not scooped. We have had someone who didn't know what this combo does. I'm thinking that maybe they have Banishing Light. Does not put a counter on anything. And they don't attack. Alright, they understand the combo. Well, right now, nothing on this board bothers me. So playing Ixalan's Binding to get rid of it isn't a concern. I'm just going to go with Leyline of Sanctity, give myself hexproof. I can't remember if Banefire says damage can't be prevented, but that would be an option that we've now locked out. Ugin the Spirit Dragon is a card I wouldn't expect them to have, but that might be why they're playing this out, because it is an instant win against us. They must have something. Again, I want another Solemnity in case they have Banishing Light for 1, then they can fill my 9 lives up completely in one go. That's what I don't want to happen. So another Solemnity, another Idyllic Tutor are exactly what we're looking for here. Until then, it's a bit spooky. Luminite Aspirant is also fogged as well, so that's not a card we have to care about. Showdown enters with nothing. Aspirant puts counters on nothing. There we go, Idyllic Tutor. So I think here we just go and get another Solemnity. Gives us a little bit of a buffer. 9 lives doesn't stack in the way you'd hope, you just want the other Solemnity. Because any one of these leaving causes us to lose the game. The other one doesn't stop us from losing the game when it triggers. So I think Solemnity is just the next answer. Get more of them. They could have Destroy All Artifacts and Enchantments. That card that always escapes my memory. Do we want to play this Amiri's Call? It's not going to win us the game. Guess I'll hold it. I don't know. Yeah, Destroy All Artifacts and Enchantments could be pretty bad. It's called, Every Time. I always want to say Planar Outburst, but I know it isn't. I doubt they're running Planar Cleansing. Maybe they've got an Undo Inversion. Again, I don't know if that's going to be the case. Blows up too much of their board, presumably. Cycle. I'd rather redraw. My life total is now irrelevant. Sorcerer's Spyglass, now then. That allows me to see into our opponent's hand. Maybe name Ugin the Spirit Dragon. I don't think it names anything else. Realistically here. It would just be one of those weird matchups where our opponent is running a one of Ugin that makes no sense, but we'll win them the game. We'll name Stomp. I think we'll name Stomp, chat. That seems like a good idea. Well, now we don't need to, but... Alright, Stomp stops us from our life total being prevented from being lost off 9 lives. I don't think our opponent realised that when they played their Bone Crusher tapped. So they can discard all their cards here for the Seasoned Hollowblade. Spyglass doesn't stop me from naming Stomp. That wouldn't do anything. So we're gonna play this. Also, Ixalan's Binding only stops them from playing Bone Crusher Giant, because that's the name of the card. Stomp is an alternative name. I believe that's how that works anyway. Let's have a look at your hand, opponent. Giant Killer and Skyclave Apparition. So that would get rid of a Solemnity. Good job we got a spare. Yeah, I'm just gonna name Ugin, I think. Naming Stomp doesn't do anything because it's not an activate ability. I just don't know what else this names that's useful. I mean, it could be either one of these as well. Let's just go with Ugin the Spirit Dragon because it wins on the spot. There won't be an Ulamog deck. I'm just going to play this out. I'm not going to pay any life because Stomp is now real. It's a thing that could exist. So if our opponent goes Skyclave Apparition, I go Binding on it. And then we've locked that out. I also get 3/3. There it is. Gain a bit of life, lose one of our Solemnities. Did they draw another? It would be very rough if they did. Very rough as the Selfless Savior enters. Oh, I'm really good. Don't hate me. Alright. Authority. So we want a Gideon's Intervention. That's the big one. Goodbye, Skyclave Apparition. Hello, 3/3. Alright, they can't play that anymore. I'll play another Authority. Because I can. Put you in hand again. Because I can. Come on, good cards. I will happily accept Approach of the Second Sun. You could just give me that card. So we can start winning. I'd be okay with just starting to win. And then again, with not saving that Stomp. It's a really bad move for them. I actually wonder if the last time that they played this down, if the Stomp was actually enough to win them the game. I think I was on 20, so they'd have only had to deal 18 damage to me. I'm pretty sure their creatures on board came pretty damn close to that. There's an Idyllic Tutor. Alright, so we're going to name Gideon's Intervention with this one, and we're going to name that Stomp. I think that's their only out at this point. So let's get Gideon's Intervention. It just seems weird to me that they're playing this out based off of having an out, and they present their out, but then don't use it. It's just strange. So yeah, we're going to play this down. We're going to name Stomp, and then we win the game. I think our opponent either has realized the error of their ways, or they've just had enough. It could be one or the other. I don't think we're ever going to cast Approach of the Second Sun. Typically, whenever I played this prison list, my win con was our opponent scooping before they saw it. And this just seems like no exception, really. Yeah, a bit of a weird one. I'd have to look back on the footage there as to find out whether or not... Because I think we were on 20, so this would put us to 18, and then damage can't be prevented this turn. If they had 18 points of damage, they had an aspirant that couldn't deal any. Yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know. Maybe it was close, but not close enough. Could have been like 15 to 16-ish damage. That would have made some semblance of sense, I guess. But, yeah. Locked out their way of getting rid of our combo. Locked out their way of getting by our combo. It's just one last time. If a source would deal damage to you, prevent that damage. Damage can't be prevented. This cancels out this. So that's how they should have won. It's not how they went about it, though. Not at all. So, yeah, pretty good. Alright guys, well that is gonna do it for today's video. It's a bit of a weird one. I'd say, honestly, out of the matches I played today, I have lost more than I have won. So I don't know if our deck builder got very lucky getting to number 1 in Mythic, whether or not the meta is very different in Mythic and this hates on more of the decks that exist. Maybe I just got unlucky. There were certainly a few occasions when I lost today where Solemnity 9 lives is a good enough combo that you just win the game on the spot. I did have a couple of games, 1 or 2, where playing Leyline actually won me the game, but they were like 30-second games, so I probably didn't include them in today's video for the sake of saving time. So there was a couple there, but this card can be very hit or miss. Like, if this card is useless, you've just mulled to 6 without any question whatsoever. This is a sideboard card at best, so it's a bit weird, but using it in best of 1, it's the best you can do, really. But I don't know. If you guys have been playing Mono White Prison, let me know what rank you've been playing it in. Let me know if you've had any luck yourself with it. It's entirely possible Platinum's just not the place for Prison. And maybe Mythic is. Who knows? But yeah, I would really appreciate it though, guys, if you do hit that like button and subscribe as well. Helps out the channel a great deal. And without further ado, I'm going to end it off here. Take care, guys. Have a wonderful night.